Hold up.
All right, okay, so here we go. This is a podcast presentation done with the one and only Dr. Tierra McMurtry, who is a professor at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. She is a professor of ELA, and uh, she's
Secondary.
secondary English. um, uh, she is also the apple of my eye. She makes my heart go pity pat pump pump pump. So I'm just very fortunate to be able to have somebody who is one of the leading figures currently working towards offering Black people liberation for the way they speak by researching and studying and coming up with ways to magnify um, the brilliance of African American language. So here we go, and this is a podcast for my course that I am taking that is dealing with equity pedagogies in teaching education. So, all right, Tia McMurtry, do you want to introduce yourself?
No, you did a beautiful job. Thank you so much. But yeah, all correct.
Okay. So what I have to do, what is here is we have to talk about equity pedagogies in teaching, and I
Right.
will be covering several topics. I'll be covering one, anti-racist pedagogy. We'll be
Mm-hmm.
talking about briefly about critical race theory. We
Mm-hmm.
also will talk about cycle of socialization and oppression.
Mm-hmm.
We will touch on critical literacy and linguistic
Mm.
diversity.
All right.
Okay. All right. So here we go.
All right.
I want to start with the pretty much for the class, what we had to do is we had to read an article by Cillian Ruiz on anti-racist pedagogy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, however, I would like to use some of the insight from other readings that we have done on anti-racist pedagogy to talk about it. So, to me, um, if you could give me your synopsis of what anti-racist pedagogy is, what is anti-racist pedagogy?
Sure. So I guess in brief, I think about Kendi Ibram, who, said, it's not an, well, who cite or quoted, um, was it Angela Davis who said, like, it's not enough to be not racist, you have to be anti-racist. And if you are anti-racist, that means you have to be actively against racism. And to do that, you have to acknowledge that racism is, the fabric of the American flag. So um to do that, and you mentioned Yolanda Celie Ruiz and her, kind of conceptualization of anti-racist pedagogies, and thinking about how, you know all of what whoever defines it, what's
Mm-hmm,
at the heart of it is self, like, work, right? And
mm-hmm,
so,
mm-hmm,
Ruiz calls it the archaeological dig, right?
mm-hmm,
But well, no, um but that digging and that, like, introspection, reflection, the praxis, that's
mm-hmm,
all about, like, how, examining your role in whiteness and the perpetuate
mm-hmm,
or white supremacy and the
mm-hmm,
perpetuation of. And so, anti-racist pedagogy is like, and I'll say, I'll use what you always say, this awareness, like this,
mm-hmm,
almost like this hypervigilance, if I can say that,
mm-hmm,
work toward, you know undoing some of the
mm-hmm.
curriculum
Uh,
damage, instructional damage,
mhm,
all
mhm,
based on standards of
mhm,
whiteness that we know
mhm,
cannot measure, the full, the full I like to either call it like the identity pie or like the cultural iceberg, like of
Hmm.
people, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
multi-layered,
Hmm.
intersectional,
Hmm.
like all that good
Yeah.
stuff.
So when I think of anti-racist pedagogy, I think of um, teaching
Mhm,
inside of this elementary school that I'm teaching at right now at Jackson Creek. And when
mhm,
so yeah, you can glean anti-racist pedagogy towards uh the curriculum, but what 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 I think or I feel is the anti-racist pedagogy is shows in the actions of the people who are in charge of teaching children or teaching teachers who are in charge of education. And specifically that one time when we were having a conversation when I told you that it was a teacher who sent an email out who could have the speech specialist who sent an email out for me to for something I did that she could have easily asked me about, and she CC'd the principal, the assistant principal, the school psychologist, other people on the team that had nothing to do with nothing to do with my caseload, and uh, that's where I think anti-racist pedagogy shows up, and it goes into also what I forget the. Do you remember the one guy who is fugitive? He the fugitive pedagogy. He has the book with
I just
fugitive pedagogy.
I just ran across it, but no,
Yeah,
I just
and
ran across
so the thing is like, okay, so what does it mean to be an anti-racist person who is inside of the school system, but yet not doing the work to 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 make the anti-racist uh, practices come to
it.
fruition. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Yeah,
I
yeah. Mhm.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm just thinking of
As Gloria Boutte and Papa George would say, I'm gonna
co-narration.
co-narrate. Go ahead, go ahead, co-narrate.
Yes. But in some cultures, overlapping is not allowed. So watch it. No, I'm just kidding. So so when you say pedagogy, that of course, rings a bell of how Freire defined it for me. Ped meaning child, and goji, to lead the child. So I automatically, assumed it was either curriculum or instructional racism, right? But when you're
Mhm,
talking about human behaviors, I think that's a very good point. That's a very good, like, because it's multi-layered.
mhm, mhm,
It's not even like layered, but it's like multifaceted, right?
mhm, mhm,
Um how racism plays out,
mhm,
and because this individual who was just acting in accordance with white supremacy culture, you know what I'm saying, that can too be classified as you know um dang, so the opposite of anti-racist pedagogy is racist pedagogy.
No,
But
you know what? As a matter of fact, Gloria Boutte and Grace Williams, Dr. Grace Williams, who,
Mhm.
hey, I know you can be the one watching it. She is, they write about
Uh-huh.
the basically the cure for anti-racist pedagogy is pro-blackness. And I just want to take that thing away from her. Hold on, I gotta take this little toy because that's annoying.
You could pause the
It's all good.
recording.
It's all good. It's all
Okay.
good. Uh, um,
You can't, and you can't hear those really nice headphones you got, really professional headphones. You can't really hear
the
any
little toy.
distraction.
Yeah, but I can. but
Oh.
yeah. So they talk about pro-blackness as being the antidote for anti-blackness. And I just think that that was just an amazing concept. When I read their work, I was just like, oh, okay, cool. That is exactly it. I also think about
Yeah.
I also think about, but there is a stigma that is associated with pro-blackness that is a negative stigma. However, everything that we do in America has pro on it. Pro basketball player, pro football player, pro soccer
Ooh,
player, pro tennis
point.
player. Everything has pro, and everything that is associated with pro means to lift up to the highest level, except for when it's associated with blackness.
Yeah. You know what? Since we're mentioning this, and I don't want to take us take us too off, but just sometimes I guess I'm so submerged in pro-blackness, or I often forget that anti-racism or anti-racist pedagogy includes like not just the black and white thing. You know what I'm saying? So when you jump to pro-blackness, that was right on my in my um lane. But I often have to constantly remind myself, especially when teaching when teaching my young adult literature class, like I gotta kind of just make sure
No. I'm just keeping track of the time. I don't want to go too over. I know what I'm saying. I ain't got the money to pay no sisters like that. Time real valuable.
Pro bono, baby. Okay, next
All right.
question.
Okay. All right. So now we're going into critical race theory.
All right.
Critical race theory to me is like the breath
Yeah.
it's like the universe decided to give the earth some oxygen, and now all of a sudden, dang, I want to say nigga so bad. Now all of a sudden black folks can breathe. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Now all of a sudden, now all of a sudden we can breathe. You know what I'm saying? And it is almost as if they are trying, with all of these anti-critical race theory laws and things that are going on. It's almost as if they are trying to take our oxygen away, and the oxygen is our ability to narrate our own experiences as experts of the experience, especially when it comes to racism. Like who can tell you how you experience racism? Can't nobody tell you how you. I don't care how many theories you've read. I don't care whatever. But when you experience racism, it's something inside of you that happens, and we already know there's something inside of you that happens because there is a physiological response that is associated with racism that goes into either microaggressions or go into stress. Um, and of course, bring in critical race theory from the law practices from Derek Bell to Gloria Ladson Billings into education. I find it to be able to read people's stories, one gives me a sense of relief, as if I'm not going cuckoo crazy in the head from experiencing these for thinking that I experience these experiences. And I think that we need to have more of that, to have our narratives and be able to write the narratives of our experiences. What you got to say?
Yeah, well, I think of Lisa Delpit, who said when she was talking about Ebonics back in the mid 90s, and she said she can't be for or against Ebonics because it's just like air. She can't be for or against air. You know what I mean? Like, so when you say like it's like oxygen, I mean, I just think about like, I like I always say, like I can't, like nobody can like they could ban CRT, they could ban the term or any associated terms, but if they were to ban it, like if it was like a manifestation of ban, like I can't be banned, and I am a walking CRT, like I'm a walking counter story. My movements, my how I present to the world, all of this is a counter narrative. You know what I'm saying? So, and so I find great pleasure in teaching critical race theory without naming it. You know what I mean? Because you don't have to name it. And then students are smart. They know what they you know, um figure it out. But like, I mean, positionality is so important, that like I can't do anything without like saying, this is who I am, and this is how, for example, this course is going to be run, and we are going to be centering, stories of non-white people. You know what I'm saying? That's CRT. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
so,
but
so
my
yeah.
thing
So,
is so when you center stories, when you center your class around Blackness, is there a physiological response? Do you receive some kind of inner something that happens to you? And the thing is it power?
question.
Does it make you feel powerful? Does it make you feel fear? Does it make you feel angst? Like, do you feel the physiological response? If I can get that
I
out.
appreciate that question.
Mhm,
I appreciate that question because I did, when I first started,
mhm,
talking about it. Yes, I did. But now, I mean, this is, this work that I do, this life work that I do, it's an ongoing project. So like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I continuously, I'm climbing the ladder of empowerment. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying?
mhm,
Like, you know, I'm very conscious of certain spaces, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm starting not to be just I kind of like, it's kind of like a some fresh kicks, you know what I'm saying? Like you got
mhm,
these fresh kicks and you want people to see them, but you don't want people to step on them, you know what I'm
mhm,
saying?
mhm,
And I noticed that like around, especially white women having to be careful because, when you let out your linguistic bag, they think that they could all of a sudden call you girl. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like,
yeah,
not homegirls. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And it's
yeah.
like, so
So,
let
so
me ask you a question. Can
okay,
I?
go ahead. Mhm.
What do you think is at the root of this whole like frenzy and kind of
Who do I think is
chaos
at the root of the
around
frenzy?
CRT?
Uh, uh, hey,
I have an idea, but I want to
so,
hear what
so,
you think.
so, so, so the thing is there is uh a anti wokeness rhetoric that's going on. But the thing is what is wokeness? Wokeness is just to open your eyes and to see. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? So for people who do not want people to see what is going on with them, there is a concerted effort to subjugate anything that offers
mhm,
people to become critical of the systems that they are living in. So
mhm,
it is big government. It is big government um, trying to is big government trying to make sure that they maintain control. What about you?
mhm. Interesting. I think that that's another thing that's multidimensional. I think it's so many things. It's fear, it's ignorance, it's folks thinking that it's a zero sub game. Like if they if they are woke, or if they become empowered, it's taking away something from us. You know what I
So
mean?
so
I
so
don't.
my thing
It's
is
all.
so my question with critical race theory with that statement is who are you saying is the people that are opposed anti-racist? Are you talking about people that are policymakers, or are you
Yeah,
talking about people who are
politicians,
yeah,
policymakers,
yeah,
people
or
in
the
power.
people, or also so you're talking specifically about people in power? Yeah,
Yeah.
man,
Uh-huh.
they got a whole agenda on that. They got a whole agenda.
Yeah.
And the thing,
But you talk about wokeness. I haven't really heard. I think that I don't know. I think that terminology is kind of dying down. What do you think?
what's his name? I forget his name anyway. I think he's the governor of Florida. He's the governor of Florida,
Mhm.
and he is on a campaign with bastardizing the term wokeness,
Mm.
of being woke. I mean, he is putting it in his gun, stuffing it down, and he is
Mhm.
shooting it everywhere. so that there is this disdain for people who are or consider themselves woke. Even Charlamagne the guy talking about, woke people are stupid, all this stuff, except for when on the Breakfast Club when what's her name, Erica Badu was on there, and Charlamagne the guy said something negative towards people that are woke. He said these people do need to go back to sleep, and she schooled him. She was like, "Nah." She was like, "We need to reclaim that word because wokeness is to be up, is to be is to see, it is to be aware of what you are." She said we cannot let somebody go ahead and make a negative association to that process, because that process is associated with blackness. And of course you are going to, because white people, like, since when, if if what other context would white people talk about being woke in? You know what I'm saying? So it's just a whole nother thing about being
Up to everybody. There's
about
no
being,
sleeping in bed.
yeah, just another thing of being anti-black. Okay, so
Yeah.
now we were going to go cycle over into the Harlow cycles of socialization, and it got
Mhm.
cycles of liberation as well. Got two little diagrams right here. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? I'll
I'm
read it
not,
quick.
I mean, I can, but I would
Don't
have
yeah, don't worry
explained
about
to
it.
me
Don't
prior to
Yeah.
our. Mhm.
Don't tell on nobody. So at the core of the cycle of socialization, exactly what you were saying. It
Mhm.
is it's fear, it's ignorance. He says
Ooh,
ignorance,
really?
fear. It's fear, ignorance, confusion, insecurity, and then it starts with born into a world, born into a space, and then you are socialized. And the socialization is reinforced, and then there are certain things in which the socialization will result in. It's dissonance, silence, anger, dehumanization, guilt, ignorance, hatred. And you have either two ways in which you want to deal with the socialization, is that you can become a change agent, you can raise your consciousness, you can become woke, or you could do nothing, make no waves, or just, stay in the status quo. So with that, question is, if there is a cycle of socialization, where would you think you find yourself on the continuum of, are you still in the brainwash, no blame, no conscience, no guilt section? Are you socialized, taught to the level, and accept your teaching, or are you reinforced? Are you currently being reinforced by structural entities like churches, schools, culture, songs, and all that stuff? Are you in the stage in which you are in dissonance? Are you silent? Are silent? Do you feel dehumanized, or are you in the change stage, which your consciousness is raising? You are interrupting the status quo, or are you in the status quo?
I would like to think that I'm in the change agents and disrupting
I would
in
say you are.
multiple, yeah, in multiple
Yeah.
ways. I appreciate this, phase in my life where I am, where I feel like I can disrupt in multiple, strands, you know what I mean? Particularly
Mhm,
with, with
mhm,
with writing and being
mhm,
able to talk to teachers. Shout out to Uncle Jimmy. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying?
mhm,
But
mhm, mhm,
um but yeah, definitely, because once and this came from I don't know, I just more and more I'm just feeling like, oh my God, humans are behind
mhm, mhm.
everything.
Everything,
You know what I mean?
absolutely everything.
Humans are behind everything, and humans are flawed. We are flawed
Big
individuals,
time. That time.
and then you get a whole bunch of, of folks in a room that agrees on what items should be on the test, then that's what the
Mhm,
items be on the test. You know what I mean?
All right. Yep. Okay.
Um,
So that goes into Holiday's concept of critical literacy. So
uh-huh.
basically, critical literacy examines the power. Those people
Uh-huh.
who are on that test. You know what I mean? Who
Uh-huh.
get to dictate the what is given and what is going to give you these skills
Mhm.
to be successful in life. So what do you have to say about critical literacy? We already running out of time. We only got a couple more minutes, so that's why I'm just pushing it on.
Okay. Well, I like to finish my last thought that I was saying, and then I'll bleed into this. Um, so what back in, and Eli, I did this, but back in, like, what was it, 2019 or 20, no, it was 19. I sat on the committee, it was a working committee too, to revise the Wisconsin state standards. Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
and Wisconsin, people look to Wisconsin's DPI,
Mm-hmm,
for
mm-hmm,
example,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
stuff like that.
Number 8 is ranked number 8 nationally in
Yep.
the states. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm,
Yep. And so rewriting those language standards
mm-hmm,
to, get rid of standard English and say standardized English, to get,
mm-hmm,
to mention code meshing versus
mm-hmm,
code switching, like
mm-hmm,
all of these things, you know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm,
And for that to be published, for that to be approved by the, state superintendent, for, like, and now I can build my work off of those
mm-hmm,
Wisconsin's, you know what I'm
mm-hmm.
saying?
Yep.
That just goes to show, like, how powerful that is, and how, like, so when I did that, just realizing that, yeah, this is just regular, I'm a regular human, and just so happened to had been at a position of power, you know what I'm saying, in that
Mm-hmm,
instance. So I like Ghodey Muhammad's distinction of criticality. So
mm-hmm,
big C and little c. So little
mm-hmm,
c,
mm-hmm,
critical thinking, big C, critical thinking with, examining power and structure, you know what I'm saying? Like all of
mm-hmm,
that.
mm-hmm,
Um, and just, I believe that we have to, like, can I give you an example of
mm-hmm,
my young adult literature class? So
mm-hmm,
we're reading, a classic white, the first acclaimed young adult literature novel, The Outsiders, right? And so
mm-hmm,
what I'm teaching them the standard way, if you will. So I'm teaching them how to, I look at it as like a layers, right? So of a pyramid. So the bottom layer is like the basics, like of a story, the plot chart, all of that, whatever. And then the middle layer is like that literary analysis. So let's look at personification. Let's look at, the themes, the tropes, the all of that, right? But then at the very top, which, if you have no top of the pyramid, you have no pyramid. So it's very, quintessential. But that
mm-hmm,
top is okay. Now let's read this thing for the racist
mm-hmm,
rhetoric. Let's read this thing for the exclusion. And let's really question in this novel, who are the real outsiders?
mm-hmm,
Because in the 60s, there were Black
mm-hmm,
folks in
mm-hmm.
Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Right.
Okay. There were Black folks. There were Native indigenous folk. You know what I mean? But the
Mm-hmm.
way that they were talked about or not talked about, that matters. And we have to, pinpoint that. So critical literacy is like the top of a pyramid. And if you don't got it,
Mm-hmm.
you don't got no pyramid.
Yeah. So with the last little 30 seconds that we have, we could talk about linguistic diversity.
Oh, no justice, no peace. That's
Mm-hmm.
real. Like, no, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Uh-huh.
I
Uh-huh.
just had a student. I'm so excited about the student. She asked
Mm-hmm.
me, what is the difference between linguistic diversity and linguistic justice? I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that I have to do, of course, we can talk about all the people, Booty, who is this?
Smitherman.
Smitherman. Here on this course, we have a couple of people
Oh,
that I was to. We talked about Cherokee Mountains. We talked
ah,
about North Carolina talk. Um, but
ooh,
you know
the
what? When I think
project.
of when I think about linguistic diversity, I think about that poem that I wrote for my student ambassadors. You know what I mean? And I just like to say it just every opportunity I get. Um, uh, how does it go?
You think about that, and
Investigators,
I'll tell you. Okay.
investigate from the mountaintops to the valleys low to see all that we can see. They dream and actualize, interrogate, realize that I am the greatest in all that I am. I'm just jacking it up, but that is just fine with me. And because of I had my Spanish speaking students, I wanted to include them into it, and so I changed it up from English into. First of all, I changed it up to I changed anyway to say desde aquí es arriba arriba arriba, and which simply means, oh, it's just up from here. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it was so and I
Beautiful.
also write about um uh, uh, you know, um, uh, actually doing the work. You know, if we could read about all the theories and we can read about all the other people that have that all this stuff. But what I am doing is I am actualizing the work. I am
Yeah.
doing the work. I am the fugitive pedagogue inside of the classroom.
Mhm.
So and I
So
have no. Mhm. Go ahead.
if I could bring it home,
Mhm.
I would say that linguistic diversity is a fact. We are all linguistically diverse from the way that we utter our words, from our repertoires that we carry. That's a fact. Linguistic diversity is a fact. Linguistic justice is a choice. You
Mm,
understand?
mhm, mhm,
So, so by you creating that creed for your
mhm,
ambassadors to read
mhm,
and to incorporate, the native languages of,
mhm,
all your students. And I'm talking the body politicking too, like when you got,
mhm,
students performing swag and all of that,
mhm,
like that
mhm,
counts as
mhm,
language,
mhm,
right? You made a choice, a very
mhm,
anti-racist choice to
mhm.
create that,
Yes.
to be inclusive and
Mhm.
thus to create that belonging.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Mercury.
That's what we're trying to get at.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
I enjoy it.
I'll call
Now,
you
now when we get off of this, we can continue the conversation, right?
soon. All right. Thanks, T.
Yeah.